Chapter 7. Lost in a Book. "I've put a crick in my spring," said Cogsworth. Dearly, his hands pressed to the back of his casing. Direly his hands pressed to the back of his casing. "I fear I shall never chime properly again." It was 4 o'clock. Dusk was settling over the castle. Belle and her friends had been cleaning for 8 hours with only a short break. "An easy chair and a rest by the fire will set you to rights, Mr. Cogsworth," said Mrs. Potts. "I set out some oil to ease your gears and oil to ease your gears and fluffed a nice soft pillow for you." "Dear woman, you are an angel of mercy," Cogsworth exclaimed. He bent down to pick up a rag off the floor, wincing as he did, then headed for the door. "Cogsworth, wait," Belle said, running to catch up with him. He stopped and turned around. "Do not tell me I missed a spot," he cautioned. "May I tell you thank you?" she asked, kneeling down to kiss his cheek. Cogsworth smiled. "That you may, my darling girl," he said, patting her arm. And you too, Mrs. Potts, Plumette, Lumiere," Belle added, looking at each of her friends in turn. "It would have taken me a month to do all this work myself. You are all so kind to help, and it means so much to me." "It was our pleasure," Lumiere said. Hardly grumbled Plumette. She looked around, assessing their work. "But the place does look very nice." Cogsworth, rag in bag, walked stiffly out of the library. Belle could hear his groans carrying up from the stairwell. Plumette and Lumiere trailed after him. Mrs. Potts followed, then turned back in the doorway. Her eyes traveled from Belle's face to her boots and back again. "If you could see yourself, child," she said, chuckling, "you look as if you've been crawling up chimneys all day." Belle laughed. She stuffed the dust rag she was still holding into her skirt pocket. "Are you not coming down? I've put the kettle on for tea," Mrs. Potts said. "Perhaps in a moment," Belle said, gazing past Mrs. Potts at the shelf full of books. Mrs. Potts smiled. "I quite understand. Tea and biscuits aren't as tempting as stories, not for a bookworm. Do come down for dinner, though, child. The master's eating in his study tonight, so dinner will only be a simple affair, but we'll fix you something nourishing. You need a good meal after all the work you've done." Belle promised she would, and Mrs. Potts went downstairs to join the others. As soon as she was gone, Belle turned and looked at the library. Her library. The floorboards had been polished to a deep shine. A fire was burning in the hearth. Every single inch of shelving had been dusted. The cobwebs were gone. The windows were gleaming. She picked up a candlestick and walked along a wall of towering bookcases, running her fingers over spines, eyeing titles, feeling as if she were the richest person in the world. When she came to the end of the row, she saw the window seat. A book lay open on its thick velvet cushion, a book on pirates. "Chip," Belle said, shaking her head. She put her candle down, picked the book up, and put it away. As she did, her eyes fell upon a narrow wooden door tucked between two tall bookcases, catty-corner from the window seat. It was slightly ajar. Belle hadn't cleaned whatever was on the other side. She'd been so busy at the front of the library, she hadn't even seen the door. Had anyone else? Crumbs, she sighed. Don't tell me we missed an entire room. Holding her candle out in front of her, Belle walked to the door. She grasped the knob, and as she did, a sense of dread, heavy and chilling, as winter fog descended on her. Just a second. Oh dear. Let me see here. She felt her body so cold and quickly drew her hand away. Stop it, you goose, she said aloud, annoyed by her silly behavior. Get a hold of yourself. Pushing the door open, she stepped into a small, dark room. It was even dustier than the rest of the library had been. Shining her candle around it, she saw that there was nothing sinister in the room at all, only a desk upon which lay quills, an empty ink pot, a dried up pot of glue, paper, cloth, and a thick ledger with the word acquisitions written on it. The room had obviously been used to catalog new books and repair old ones. Perhaps the castle had had its own library once. Belle smiled to think that she was a librarian now. She vowed to keep a well-organized, tidy library, one that would make Pierre Robert proud. She opened the ancient ledger. Oh, hold on a second. She opened the ancient ledger. Its last entry, written in a neat, precise hand, described a first edition of Dainty's The Divine Comedy, purchased from a bookseller in Venice for a princely sum. Belle's heart quickened at the thought of holding such a precious, priceless book in her hand, but Dainty would have to wait until tomorrow. She was too tired to even open a book right now. She closed the ledger, and as she did, a ghostly wail rose behind her. She spun around, gasping with fright, but soon saw the cause. The room's only window was slightly open. The winter wind was whistling through. A coating of snow had blown onto the sill. Belle shivered. She put her candlestick down and closed the window. Just a second. Oh dear. Belle shivered. She put her candlestick down and closed the window. The idea of sitting by a cheerful fire in the kitchen with a cup of tea and her friends for company suddenly seemed quite appealing. She picked up her candle and was just about to leave the workroom when something else caught her eye. A heavy black book resting on a table to the left of the window. That's strange. Why aren't you shelved? She wondered aloud, walking over to it. The book's leather binding was oddly free of dust. Had someone come in here to read it? Had the beast left it out for her? She looked at the floor, but the only footprints in the dust were her own. Frowning, she bent down to the book. Its title was stamped on the cover in gold. Nevermore, she read aloud. Intrigued, she picked it up. The book was warm. Belle felt a faint pulsing as she touched it, as if it had a heartbeat, as if it were alive. Startled, she dropped it. It landed on the table with a loud thump. Then it snapped upright. All right, everybody. Well, if you'd like, I can start chapter 8 if you like. All right. I'm going to start chapter 8, and since it's a short chapter, I think I will finish chapter 8 since it's short. So let's continue on with chapter 8. Chapter 8, Lost in a Book. Belle took a step back. She was used to objects that talked and moved now, but she hadn't expected the book to be one of them. The beast had warned her that the library contained a few enchanted books, and that some of them tended to be unruly. Was this one? What was it going to do? I'm sorry I disturbed you, Belle said hesitantly. I didn't mean to. The book didn't respond to her apology. Instead, it moved to the edge of the table, walking on its bottom corners, and jumped down. Belle moved farther away, but as she did, her heel caught in the rug. She lost her balance and fell on the floor with a hard, jarring thud. For a few seconds, she thought it was her new perspective that made Nevermore look bigger than it had. But as her head cleared, she saw that she was wrong. The book was growing. Okay, everybody. Well, that is where we will leave you with Chapter 8. So, Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 is where we will leave you for next time. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This is Charlotte, like Charlotte's Web, and please leave any likes and feel free to subscribe. And have a great rest of your day, and stay tuned for more of Lost in a Book. Bye!